My boss embarrassed me at the product launch, but what happened next shocked him. But before I share my story, please take a minute of your precious time to support our channel. Your support and love keeps us going. The clinking of crystal flutes froze in midair as the music stopped and the spotlight turned toward the stage. At the center of the grand hall of the Uptown Convention Center, my boss, Marcus Langston, adjusted his tie and leaned into the microphone. His voice rolled across the gold-draped walls and mirrored chandeliers, commanding the attention of every guest. "It's a night to honor progress," he declared, flashing that rehearsed grin of his. "But sometimes, progress means knowing when to let go." Every head swiveled in my direction. My glass of champagne trembled in my hand, though I forced my grip steady. I devoted nearly 3 years to this launch, missed Sunday dinners with my son, birthdays, even the fragile remnants of my marriage, but Marcus was about to erase me with a single sentence. "She's stepping away," he said, eyes locking on mine. His tone carried a cruel satisfaction. Truth is, she never had the spark for leadership. Laughter rippled through the crowd, shallow and obedient, like guests afraid to fall out of rhythm. He didn't even bother saying my name. Just she, as if I were an afterthought, a footnote. The air in my lungs felt thin, but I refused to wilt. I rose from my chair, smoothed the sleeve of my emerald jacket, and picked up the thick envelope I had been carrying all evening. Every step toward the podium felt deliberate, measured. "To Marcus," I said, lifting my glass. My voice was cool, steady, almost too calm. "From the woman you call your greatest mistake." I laid the envelope down in front of him. No tears, no pleas, just silence. Then I turned, heels tapping against the marble floor, and walked toward the exit. Behind me came the tearing of paper, then Marcus's voice cracking. "What the hell is this?" I didn't turn back. "My name is Ava Johnson." I was 45 years old, and until that night I had been the director of innovation at Brightwave Dynamics, one of the fastest rising firms in Houston, Texas. For over a dozen years, I gave everything I had to that company. I began as a market researcher, stayed late when others left early, pulled entire projects out of the fire while men like Marcus soaked in the applause. And I believed in it, believed that hard work and loyalty would eventually be seen, rewarded. But I learned the truth the hard way. Sometimes, the higher you climb, the easier it is for them to pretend you never existed. It had all started a month earlier, the day Marcus called me into his corner office. He leaned back in his leather chair, the city skyline of Houston glittering behind him, and gave me that polished smile he wore like armor. "Ava, you've been reliable," he said smoothly, twirling his fountain pen between his fingers. "But this rollout needs something fresh, more fire, more youth. We're going to have Devin present instead." Devin, the same 27-year-old I had mentored from scratch. A man with neat braids, a dazzling smile, and exactly 0 years of real experience before I trained him. I stared at Marcus, waiting for the punchline. "You're serious?" I asked. "You'll still be on the team," he said, tilting his head with mock sympathy. "But investors want someone dynamic. Don't take it personally." That was the moment I knew my future at Brightwave wasn't mine to claim. Not because I lacked ability, but because Marcus had already written me out of the story. In his eyes, I was replaceable, disposable. But what Marcus didn't realize was that I had been watching him for a long time. I had noticed things he thought no one paid attention to, performance charts that looked too perfect, safety reports that didn't match what our labs whispered, invoices with numbers that didn't belong. Whenever I brought up my concerns, Marcus would wave his hand like he was shooing away a fly. "You're overthinking again, Ava. Just focus on your department." But I'd spent my life learning to trust my instincts, and my instincts screamed at me that something was rotten. So I started keeping proof. Quietly, carefully, copies of emails, duplicate reports, notes from late-night meetings. Not because I was hungry for revenge, not then, but because something deep in me whispered I'd need them someday. And that someday came sooner than I ever imagined. By the night of the launch, I already knew what Marcus planned. The smirk, the staged toast, the carefully timed humiliation. He wanted to parade my erasure, make sure the board saw him as the master of the show, the one who could discard the woman who had built the very product they were toasting. But what I carried to that podium wasn't just paper. It was the result of 7 months of meticulous evidence, falsified certifications, manipulated lab data, expense sheets padded with deals that never happened. There were even signed memos with Marcus's initials, authorizing safety results to be buried so Brightwave could launch early and dazzle investors. And Marcus wasn't the only one who would see them. As I pushed through the ballroom doors, my colleagues' applause fading behind me, a strange calm washed over me. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. I didn't drive straight home. Instead, I wound my way through the rain-slicked streets, headlights reflecting like ghostly streaks on the windshield. My fingers clenched the steering wheel, mind replaying every sacrifice I had made, the arguments that had shattered my marriage, the family dinners I'd skipped, the birthdays I had missed with my son Malik, who had just turned 22. All for a company that decided I was nothing more than an old file to be thrown out. But Marcus had made one fatal mistake. He thought I would bow out quietly. What he didn't know was that someone outside Brightwave already knew about everything I had uncovered, and they were waiting. The rain hadn't even dried on my driveway when I knew Marcus would try to come after me. Sure enough, the next morning my phone buzzed endlessly. Calls from Marcus, from Tanya, our HR director, and one number I didn't recognize. I let them all go to voicemail. Instead, I brewed a pot of coffee and sat at my kitchen table, staring at the black leather briefcase I had stashed away for months. Buried beneath ordinary budget drafts and meeting notes were the files that mattered. The real files. The irregularities had started small when Marcus took over as CEO a year and a half ago. Travel bills rubber-stamped without receipts. Bonus checks slipped through without approval. Then it escalated. Safety reports rewritten. Engineers told to massage the numbers before investor calls. Contracts signed with suppliers who never shipped a single part. I should have walked away. But I couldn't. I had given Brightwave more than 12 years of my life. A part of me felt like protecting the company was the same as protecting my own name. By then, though, I wasn't shielding the company anymore. I was fighting for myself, and maybe for the families who trusted the devices we built. By midday, the voicemails were piling up. Asterisk, Ava, it's Marcus. We need to talk. You're making a mistake. This is Tanya from HR. Call me back immediately so we can finalize your departure. Then the one that twisted my stomach. This is Gerald Whitmore, outside counsel for Brightwave Dynamics. It is critical that you return any confidential materials you removed. If you do not, the company will pursue legal remedies. Legal remedies. They were moving fast, but I had already planned my next step. At 2 o'clock, I drove across town to a modest credit union where I'd opened a safe deposit box years ago. The clerk recognized me and smiled politely. Good afternoon, Miss Johnson, she said. I nodded, requested access, and slipped inside. There, I placed duplicates of the most damning documents, doctored safety test results, falsified contracts, Marcus's initials approving fraudulent reports. I locked them away tight. Evidence in my house could vanish overnight in a staged burglary. But evidence in a bank vault? Much harder to erase. When I sat back in my car, I gripped the steering wheel, my pulse pounding like a drum. This wasn't just office politics anymore. Marcus wasn't trying to embarrass me, he wanted me silenced. That night I called my son. Malik's voice, warm but tense, came through the line. He was balancing his senior year at college and a part-time job at a record store. Mom, what's happening? I saw a post saying you walked out on Brightwave. Is that true? I hesitated, hating the truth that waited on my tongue. It's true, baby. Marcus forced me out. That's ridiculous. You gave them everything. I know, I whispered. My throat tightened. But I need you to stay focused on school, Malik. Don't get dragged into this mess. The silence stretched before he asked softly, You're not in danger, are you? No, I lied. I'm handling it. Just trust me. When the call ended, the house felt heavier than ever. I didn't know how much danger I was in. But Marcus's frantic messages told me one thing. I had leverage he hadn't expected. That weekend, a black SUV idled at the end of my block for nearly an hour. Curtains drawn, lights dim, I watched through a narrow slit. When it finally pulled away, my decision was sealed. I couldn't take on Marcus and Brightwave alone. I needed allies, people who couldn't be bought or bullied. I rummaged through an old desk drawer until I found it. A business card worn soft at the edges. Denise Carter, a former coworker who had left the corporate grind years earlier to join a non-profit consumer safety watchdog. We hadn't spoken in nearly a decade, but I still remembered her parting words. One day you'll see. Some fights can't be won inside those walls. Call me when you're ready to step outside. My hands shook as I dialed the number. After 3 rings, a calm but unflinching voice answered. Ava Johnson, Denise said, as if she had been expecting this moment all along. Tell me what you've uncovered. That night, I didn't sleep. I sorted through my files, stripping out opinions and leaving only hard evidence. Every document, every memo, every email thread laid out in a clean folder. Fear was still there, coiled in my chest. But alongside it, a sharper feeling began to take root: clarity. Marcus thought I was a discarded relic he could mock in silence. What he didn't realize was that relics can still hold receipts. And by Monday morning, those receipts would no longer be mine alone. Monday arrived heavy with gray clouds, the kind that pressed down on the city like a weight. I barely touched my coffee. My nerves weren't about caffeine, they were about the folder sitting in my bag and the meeting I was walking into. Denise had been firm on the phone. Only bring what you're ready to lose. Keep the rest safe. We'll start with enough to get their attention. By 9 o'clock, I was stepping through the revolving glass doors of a high-rise on Midtown Houston's business strip. The lobby gleamed with marble floors and glass walls. A plaque on the wall read, Center for Public Accountability, Suite 2100. The receptionist greeted me by name. Miss Johnson, Miss Carter is expecting you. Inside the conference room, Denise rose from her chair, her salt and pepper curls framing a face that still carried the same steady resolve I remembered. She hugged me briefly before introducing the others. Tyrone Blake, an investigative reporter from the Houston Ledger, and Camille Rivers, a sharp-eyed attorney who specialized in whistleblower protection. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I'd thought this would be a quiet strategy talk. Instead, I was staring at 2 professionals who had the power to drag Brightwave's secrets into daylight and defend me when the storm hit. I set the folder on the table. My voice came out low but steady. This is only a slice of what I've collected. Enough to show a pattern. Tyrone leaned forward, scanning the reports and emails with practiced intensity. His brow furrowed. These safety tests, if they've been falsified, this isn't just corporate misconduct. It's dangerous. Families could get hurt. We're talking lawsuits, recalls, maybe even federal charges. Camille looked up from her notepad. And your job status? Where does it stand? They haven't made it official yet, I said. Marcus tried to shove me aside at the launch. HR's been calling nonstop. Her jaw tightened. Classic move. They'll dangle a severance agreement, loaded with silence clauses. Don't sign anything, not even a resignation. They want to lock you down before you realize the power you hold. Denise placed her palms flat on the table and met my eyes. Ava, once we move forward, there's no going back. Marcus will come for you personally. Brightwave will paint you as bitter, unstable, anything to kill your credibility. Are you ready for that fight? My mind flickered to Malik, to the soccer games I had missed, the birthdays I'd promised to make up for but never did. I remembered Marcus's smirk at the podium, the SUV parked outside my house, the shredded offer I fed to my paper shredder. Yes, I said finally. My voice didn't shake. I'm ready. For the next 3 hours, we mapped out the plan. Camille would file for federal whistleblower protections, giving me a legal shield against retaliation. Tyrone would start verifying the documents, but nothing would be printed until we were secure. Denise's organization would prepare to alert regulators if the internal board ignored us. By the time I left the building, the weight on my shoulders hadn't vanished, but it had shifted. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't carrying it alone. Still, fear clung to me like smoke. That evening, while I stirred a pot of gumbo in my small kitchen, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Marcus or HR. It was Malik. Mom, are you okay? His voice was hushed tight. I just saw something online. Somebody saying you were dragged out of Brightwave by security. I gripped the wooden spoon until my knuckles ached. Don't believe everything you read, baby. I walked out on my own terms. But did they really fire you? They tried, I said. Let's just say I didn't make it easy. He was quiet for a long beat. Then, I hate how they're treating you. After everything you gave them. I swallowed hard. That's exactly why I can't let them bury this. One day you'll understand why standing up matters, even when it costs you everything. There was another pause, then his voice softened. I think I already do. And I'm proud of you. Just then, a sharp knock rattled my front door. My breath caught. Through the peephole, I saw Marcus himself, standing stiff in a tailored suit that looked wildly out of place in my modest neighborhood. Ava, he called, his voice tight but trying for calm. Open up. We can resolve this before it spins out of control. I stayed silent. After a moment, he pulled a thick envelope from his briefcase and slid it under the door. This is my final offer. Sign it, and everything disappears. You'll never have to worry about money again. I waited until his car pulled away before picking it up. Inside was a severance package worth 6 years' salary, plus a sweeping non-disclosure clause. I fed the papers into my shredder without hesitation. The grinding teeth drowned out the echo of Marcus's voice in my head. Comfort purchased with silence wasn't comfort at all. That night, lying in the dark, I finally admitted to myself, Marcus believed money and fear would cage me. But what I carried now was bigger than both. And by the end of the week, his empire would tremble. Tuesday morning began with a crisp call from Camille. The filings are in, she said. Whistleblower protections requested. Complaints submitted to the Consumer Safety Bureau and the Securities Authority. From here on out, do not meet with anyone from Brightwave unless I'm present. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. The steam from my coffee curled upward like a warning signal. By mid-morning, Denise added me to a secure video call with her team. 2 tracks, she explained. We'll notify Brightway's audit committee so they can't pretend ignorance. And we'll send a preservation order to their attorneys. Once they're on legal notice, erasing evidence becomes a crime. Minutes later, an email hit my inbox, a litigation hold. Every employee was ordered to preserve test results, emails, drafts, even sticky notes. For the first time, Brightwave was admitting, at least internally, that this was real. Tyrone called after lunch. His tone was cautious but firm. I've spoken to 2 engineers. Both confirmed there was pressure to tweak the data. One's even willing to go on background. And the independent testing lab? They wouldn't comment outright, but they gave me report numbers that line up with what you saved. That's confirmation enough. It felt like a small, sober victory. By Wednesday, HR sent another email requesting I meet to discuss my options. Camille replied on my behalf. All communications go through counsel. Not long after, my phone rang. A measured male voice introduced himself. Ms. Johnson, this is Howard Ellis, chair of Brightway's audit committee. We'd like to speak with you today if possible. My attorney will coordinate, I answered. His sigh carried the weight of a man, realizing the ground had shifted beneath him. That evening, Malik showed up at my door with takeout boxes and worry written across his face. We sat at the same kitchen table we'd shared when he was a little boy doing homework. Are you scared? He asked quietly. Yes, I admitted. But scared doesn't mean wrong. He squeezed my hand, his eyes fierce. I'm proud of you, Mom. Thursday moved quickly. Camille confirmed the regulators had opened case numbers. Denise's team drafted a public statement in case Brightwave tried to smear me. At dusk, Tyrone called. My editors approved the piece for tomorrow. It's careful, documented, corroborated. You won't be named beyond what's already public. Are you ready? No one is ever ready to become a headline. But I said yes. At dawn Friday, my phone buzzed with a link. The headline was simple, almost clinical. Internal documents indicate safety failures in Brightwave Dynamics launch. The article laid it out in plain language. Internal reports showed failing results. Leadership pushed ahead anyway. Investors were given doctored presentations. By 7 a.m., my messages were flooded. Quiet thank yous from former colleagues. Angry, no-comment statements forwarded from Brightwave's PR team. At 8:30, the company replaced its glossy launch banner on its website with a plain message. We are reviewing additional data and will provide an update. Not long after, Marcus's voice thundered through my voicemail. You've ruined everything. You think anyone will hire you again? You think you're some kind of savior? You're nothing but a liability. Camille texted within minutes. Don't respond. We'll preserve the voicemail. By noon, another announcement hit the wires. Brightwave claimed they followed rigorous protocols and categorically denied falsifying data, but buried near the bottom of the statement was one sentence: an executive has been placed on administrative leave pending review. They didn't name him. They didn't have to. That afternoon, my son sent me a picture from his campus bookstore window. Someone had taped up a handwritten sign, "Be gentle with people. You don't know the weight they carry." My eyes burned as I stared at it. Later that evening, an email pinged from an address I knew too well, Langston@brightwave.com. No subject line. Just a single sentence. "You don't realize what you've set in motion." But he was wrong. I realized it perfectly. The following Monday, in a glass-walled boardroom with a court reporter clicking away, I faced the audit committee, Brightwave's lawyers, and Marcus himself. His suit was flawless, but his confidence was gone. "You're tearing this company apart," he hissed. I met his eyes at last. "No, Marcus. You did that the moment you decided profit mattered more than people's safety. All I did was stop you from hiding it." The room froze. Every keystroke from the reporter echoed like a verdict. For 2 hours, I laid out the facts, calm, precise, undeniable. By the end, no one would meet Marcus's gaze. Weeks later, the headlines told the rest. Brightwave recalled its flagship product. Federal investigations opened. 2 board members resigned. And Marcus Langston, suspended under federal inquiry. I was never named in the official statements, though whisper circled. Some branded me a traitor. Others called me a whistleblower. But the labels didn't matter. One evening, over takeout with Malik again, he asked, "Do you regret it?" I thought of the long years at Brightwave, the sacrifices, the humiliation at that launch. Then I remember the folder of evidence, the moment I finally spoke the truth out loud. "No," I said, my voice steady. "I regret giving the wrong people my loyalty for too long. But I'll never regret standing tall when it counted." Malik smiled faintly. "That's what I'll remember, Mom. Not the company. You." And in that moment, I realized legacy isn't about titles or pensions. It's about leaving behind something your child can be proud of. That was enough. Thank you so much for watching this story until the very end. Ava's journey is more than a story of corporate betrayal. It's a reminder that silence can be costly, and courage often comes at the highest price. She walked away from comfort, from titles, and from everything she thought defined her, only to discover something stronger, her voice. In the end, Ava didn't just expose corruption. She reclaimed her power, her dignity, and the respect of the one person who mattered most, her son. Because when truth is on the line, standing firm isn't just an act of resistance. It's an act of legacy. Sparkles, if the story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who believes in justice, resilience, and the power of speaking up. And if you want more powerful stories like this one, hit that subscribe button and join me for the next tale.